Hey, Alex.
What's up?
You know this episode's brought to you by Matthew's Studio Equipment?
Really? Isn't that the technology that complements your imagination?
Yeah.
Sweet.
You're listening to Filmmakers Drinking Bourbon.
Hey, what's up, World Wide Web? This is Brandon Ferris.
And this is Alexander Elkins.
And we have lost our minds.
Yeah.
We are filmmakers.
And we are also drinking maybe a bit too much bourbon.
And eating bagels.
Well, you're eating a bagel. I finished
Yeah.
mine.
I mean, we've been involved in a podcast marathon today.
A podcast. You from Boston?
This is crazy, right?
A podcast marathon.
This is our third podcast today.
Wisconsin.
Right?
It is, yeah. It's our third today, but it's actually our
first.
first that you will hear.
This is the third podcast we've recorded today, and the first one you're listening to.
So we will actually become more sober as you listen to these episodes throughout the weeks.
We are entering back into the past.
Entering back into the past. Currently.
It's amazing.
We're currently entering back into the past. Anyway, we've got a
Good
cool
stuff
show
today.
Dude, we've got a great show.
Big time.
We have a very special guest from a company that you all know and love.
I mean, we're talking royalty.
Filmmaking royalty. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
This is massive. This is a big deal.
I would tend to agree.
And we're on episode 97.
Which means 3 more till the grand 100th reveal, debut
Absolutely.
of Kill Game, our meetup, our everything.
The whole deal. And what better company to have on here than Mr. Matthew himself?
Yeah, we do. We have Ed Phillips, the president CEO of Matthew's Studio Equipment, MSC. You've seen their logo on all the stands and grip gear and everything you know and love.
You're not making any type of film making anything without touching some of this gear.
Absolutely.
It's just how it goes down.
We got to get him on, man. We got to.
So let's do this.
Yeah, dial him
So
up.
I'm gonna. You know what? I need
Put
to
your sandwich down.
I need to put my sandwich down. I need to open the bourbon phone.
Ooh.
And get this thing dialed up. Here we go.
That was the receiver. Here's the earpiece. That's the data coming through. I think there was a snort in there.
There it is. There it is. Right there.
Ed, are you there?
I'm here. How's everybody?
Welcome to the show. I'm glad you could swim through all that bourbon to get here.
Well, I'm a little drunk, but I'm looking forward to the interview.
Oh,
nice.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Yeah, we're stoked, man. You guys are like, you're the OGs, the original gangsters. I mean, you can't go on any set without touching something that you guys are a part of.
Well, it's been a long road and a lot of fun. 48 years so far.
Yeah. Well, you guys have created some, absolutely innovative, just quality products. Kind of a broad question, but can you take us back to the start of it all? Where did you personally get your start, and why did you create or have a part in Matthew's Studio Equipment?
The company was originally founded by Roy Isaiah back in the middle 60s. Roy was a grip working at Paramount, both on shows, but also in the canvas room, where he was doing, sewing and textiles, recovers, butterflies, overheads, and had an idea to do it in his garage in the evening after work, which turned into a company, and it was kind of the introduction to the major studios of outsourcing, where they found that it was far less costly and really more advantageous to buy it out than do it, on the lot. Although in those days everything was done on the lot. All the woodworking, the sheet metal, the welding, the fabrication, maintenance, repair, etc. So, Roy kind of takes claim for introducing outsourcing. I was working at Universal as an electrician. I had some ideas on some lighting fixtures because things were going off the lot. They were, going remote, and we needed to have lighter, faster gear. So I decided to work out of my garage, and I started to build some fixtures They became of interest to the studios. They then began to purchase. I then sold the company to Sheldon Leonard and Fuad Saeed of Taft Broadcasting. Sheldon Leonard was the producer of I Spy back then with Robert Culp. And from there, I met Roy Isaiah, as he was then a vendor to Cinemobile, which was the Fuad Saeed company. So with that introduction, Roy and I spoke, and we decided if we come together, I could produce the hardware, he could continue on with the soft goods, and we could build a company. And that was back in 1968.
Dude, you were like the Steve Jobs of film gear.
Yeah, it was
great.
If we had taken it, I have to tell you, if we had taken it more seriously, we would be even a larger company. But we were just, basically kids really having a lot of fun, interacting with, grips and gaffers and directors of photography and getting ideas from them and building stuff, innovating things along the way. There was a real small fraternity of manufacturers. We all got along famously and respected one another, and it was really just a lot of fun. It wasn't until 1998 when I bought the company back out of the public arena, because we had taken it public in 1989. So in 98 I bought it back, and that's when I said, I better grow up and take this thing seriously and make a real company out of it, which we've been able to do.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It definitely seems that way. You guys have come up with some incredible products that are used on every set. Who, I guess, in your company would be responsible for some of the innovations? You yourself, some of the people you work with. Can you talk a little bit about that? Coming up with new products? Yeah,
sure. In the early days, it was really, people would say, well, where do you get these ideas? Who does your engineering? And it was the actual practitioner. It was the grip, the gaffer, who would come in and share what their needs were, and then I would kind of design and engineer it, and we would fabricate some prototypes, and either it would work or it wouldn't, and either became a product or it didn't. As the company has grown, we now have an engineering department. We do everything on SolidWorks. We produce all the components on numerically controlled CNC machinery, as opposed to the older conventional lathes and mills. And we have the engineers. Tyler is now very much involved. He's of the current generation. I myself am probably 2 years younger than God.
So do you guys are you still driven by the field? So do you still have guys that that contact you and say, look, I had this set up, I was trying to do this jiggy bob, and it just nothing was getting the angle that I needed. It would be really helpful if it had a ball joint zigger bobber. And is that something you guys have ever thought about? Is that still happening, where people come to you with like needs and you guys are saying, okay, let us recreate this and sort of innovate this new piece of gear?
Yeah, exactly. And we're very proud of the fact that the company has a culture of integrity, not only with respect to how we treat the people who work with us here, but how we treat those who use our gear and feel comfortable enough to bring us these ideas, where we then pay royalty to the person with the idea. They may not have anything more than a concept, or they may walk in with a prototype, but rather than rip their intellectual property, which is rude, we work a deal whereby then, as this product comes to market, and if it sells, then they each get what we call mailbox money every quarter.
Yeah.
Steve Cardellini, who invented the Cardellini clamp, of which there are thousands, contacted us 16 years ago, and we made a deal where we then produced the Mathellini. Steve continued on with his Cardellini. And every year, Steve, and we sold tens of thousands of these things over the years, all over the world. And Steve would call every Christmas and thank us for a great year, and thank us for putting his 2 daughters through university, and thanked us for a new pickup truck he was able to buy every couple of years. So, it worked out well for the consumer because they had choices. Yeah. It worked out well for Steve and his family, and it worked out well for Matthews. And that's just one example. We've got the Duty Dolly we brought out just about a year ago.
Yeah. We saw that at the last NAB.
Baby.
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Well,
and that's the baby of James.
I don't know that I remember that. What is that?
It's a... You go ahead and
the Duty Dolly is a very unique design for a 3-foot square dolly that'll run on a smooth surface without track, or if you want to suspend the camera and drop it below, where you can go over a set. You can run track, you can run pipe, you can run tubing, you can run with the content producers today, the guys that have to travel as light as possible. You could take 2 rails off your 12 by 12 frame and use it as dolly track.
Gotcha.
It's an incredible tool. It's being very well received, and that's the brainchild of a key grip by the name of James Sal Duty, otherwise known as Duty.
Yeah, I think he was actually demoing that at NAB, if I remember.
Yes,
correctly.
He was. Yeah,
he was.
Awesome.
He loves it.
Very nice guy. The thing I loved about that Duty Dolly was how low you could get to the ground that you can't do with some of the other systems.
That's true.
Still get
you
some
can
movement.
get within 2 inches of the floor.
Yeah, incredible.
That's great. I love that about your culture. That's really cool that any idea is a good idea. I'm dying to know though, and I'm hoping you have some history or some answers to this. But what's the origin behind the C-stand? I mean, that's the most iconic piece of equipment on any film set. You guys obviously are known, for heavy-duty, reliable C-stands. Let's talk C-stand for a minute. What do you got? What do you got on, how did it come to be? How did you guys, come to make yours so, widely known? C-stands.
Well, there are a couple of explanations. I've researched them, and both appear to be true. One is a little more glamorous than the other, so I'll start with the less glamorous version, which comes out of New York, where, at the turn of the century, Edison invented the light bulb, and film was in its infancy, and there were a couple of manufacturers for fixtures back then, one of whom was Kliegel Brothers. Kliegel Brothers built what we called back then the Klieg light. Some of your listeners may have heard of that if they went to film school. The Klieg light also became famous for giving actors and crew members Klieg eye, which is no different than if you overexpose your retina to the sun or a welding torch, where the Klieg light was a carbon arc, which is as close to sunlight as you can get. But it had no lens or Fresnel. The Fresnel had not yet even been put into practical use. And so there was no barrier to hold the UV back, and therefore, the actors, crew, and others got this eye infection. But there was Kliegel Brothers, and then there was another company there called Century Lighting. Well, every stand that Century Lighting put out just became known as a Century stand. Not a C-stand, but a Century stand. Now, the story I'm about to share with you is my most favorite. While Cecil B. DeMille, who was making films in New York, was looking for constant sunlight, which he couldn't get out of New York, he decided to travel west to chase the sun. Now, they say had he taken the inland route by train, he probably would have gotten off in Phoenix, Arizona, and God forbid Phoenix might have become Hollywood.
Oh, Jesus.
But
yeah, it's so hot. It's so hot there.
And that's with all due respect to your Phoenix listeners. But, thank God he took the inland route, and he got off in Los Angeles, and he said, this is going to work. And so in about 1922, they started building stages. The stages were built outside on carousels, so they could turn the stage to follow the sun, and the sun was the key light. But they still needed to control the light source, just as we do today. So they went to the theater and they hired stagehands out of the theater. The stagehand then came to work for the studios carrying what we would call a ditty bag, but they called it a grip, and in their grip was their hammer, their nails, and all of their other tools. So that also gives you how the grip was born.
This is amazing. My mind is exploding right now. This is great. Keep going.
But what they needed to do, as we must do today, is control that light, whatever the source may be. Mm-hmm. And so they had certain textiles, whether it was, sheets, bed sheets, cotton percale sheets, or tree branches, you name it. Yeah. And they needed to be able to, support those in the sun and control the light on the rotating set. So the grips then built non-telescopic, what looked like wooden easels, and they would nail these various things off to these wooden easels. Well, they were non-telescopic, so they had a 50-inch model, a 100-inch model, a 200-inch model, and of course slang, which is part of our industry, came into being, and so the 100-inch easel became known as the century stand.
100-inch. Got it. That totally makes sense. When did they start making the telescoping, like the version that we know today, with the head?
The studios were the first to build them out of metal. They were a welded base. They didn't fold up, but they had the three-stepped legs, which were originally designed to nest on stage and not consume a lot of space when not in use, but also to be able to be positioned under a lighting stand or close about the lighting stand or under a coffee table or a chair or what have you with that one low leg. But they were not very portable. So when we began to build the C-stand, we were the first company to build a folding leg C-stand, and that was in about 1973. It wasn't too long thereafter, we were the first company to build a spring-loaded folding leg C-stand. And as years went by, we began to sell thousands and thousands every year. Of course, we've been, copied by so many other manufacturers, of which I don't have a problem with some of that, in that I think that's part of the free enterprise system, and so if somebody is going to copy something and make it better, then I'm all for it, because, that's what allowed us our entree into this industry. Mm-hmm. But when somebody copies something exact, as more and more is being the case, because they really don't understand what it does. They just have a cheap source of supply and want to get into the market with a cheaper product that may be dangerous at some point in time, but at least they didn't have any research or development costs involved. Some people will say, well, that's flattering, that somebody wants to copy your product, and I say BS, that's the cheapest form of engineering there is.
Yeah, agreed.
But, as we began to gain our recognition worldwide, where we were selling, into Europe and here across the United States, we were selling back then, let's go to the 90s. In the 90s, we were selling about 12 to 15,000 C-stands a year. Last year, we sold 17,000.
Wow.
So, one might ask oneself, with all
man,
for the 40 years we've been doing it, where the hell did they all go?
Yeah. Just so you know, for the listeners, you dropped out for just 1 second, but I think the context is still there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You were talking CSS. So I have a question. So this would be, I guess, and maybe I'm not up to speed with what you guys are developing, but I think as someone who's worked in this industry, C-stands they're heavy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to carry them.
Necessarily.
Have you guys have you experimented with like graphite C-stands or like some sort of option that's just a lot lighter and a little more easy to transport?
Yes, we have. And here's
sorry, don't make them out of graphite.
That'll splinter everywhere.
Don't make them out of graphite. We're not trying to draw with these C-stands. I think I was.
It's part of painting with light.
Yeah, I was
drawing.
I was thinking of what's the other thing?
Carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber. The golf club.
Carbon fiber.
Yeah.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about that. Is there I guess you guys have studied. I'm assuming you've studied that there's a sweet spot when it comes to weight and safety and utility, and why sometimes this gear has to be heavy duty. I mean, obviously you guys are known for like heavy duty, well crafted. You only need to buy one; it'll last for a lifetime gear. I'm assuming there's a reason behind that.
Well, yeah, there is, and it has to do with the fact that there are plenty of film schools. There's great opportunities for learning, but part of what we do is unscripted in the sense that you're in the hot seat, you're on set. You need to get this light over here or over there. More and more C-stands are being used as lighting stands, which is not real smart, but they are. And we put stress loads on certain things that we as a manufacturer can't control. All we can do is try our best to find a happy medium which will give you a safe, secure tool to get the job done that also offers you versatility. And I'm afraid in some instances, if we go too lightweight, then we're going to create a problem. We're not necessarily going to solve a problem.
Right. It could potentially become unsafe.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct. We learned a lesson years ago, and I don't know, how much time we have on this conference, but I'll begin to share the story, and I'll condense it to the best of my ability. When I first got in the business, and I'm working at Universal on the back lot before there was ever a city walk, and I'm pulling, back then we used 4/0, which is huge cable, weighs 1 pound per foot, and every roll was 100 feet. So I'm pulling 100 pounds up the back lot, up the mountain to where City Walk is today, and there was a big old movie set up there. And I keep falling down in the dirt, and it's hot, and I get up, and I pull some more, and I fall down in the dirt. And one of these many times I fell down, I look down on the lot, and I see all the suits coming in through the gate to go into the parking structure in their Mercedes and BMWs and what have you. And I just sat there in the dirt, and I looked down, and I said, someday, I don't know how, but someday I'm going to be one of those guys. Well, if you fast forward until 1987, where we had a crane called the Tulip crane, and it was a unique product in that you could fold it up, you could get it up on a roof, you could get it in places you couldn't put a conventional crane. It was in Florida working on a Burt Reynolds movie called Stick, and it could roll on track. And unfortunately, the crane operator rolled the crane off the track. It had nowhere to go but down, and several people were injured. So again, fast forward, there's a meeting held at the CEO's office of Universal. Burt Reynolds is there. All the lawyers are there. I'm called in because I represent the company who built this product. And as I'm going through the guard gate in my little red Mercedes and my very best suit, I look up at that mountain, and I said, shit, I made it. I'm getting the crap suit out of me. Right? But I made it.
That is one of the best stories ever told on this podcast. That is amazing. Wow.
It just goes to show if you have a stick-to-itiveness, if you have a purpose, if you believe in what you're doing, you can survive. You can beyond survive. You can succeed. Wow. And just to give you the conclusion of that, which was the object lesson of the whole event, we were able to settle literally on the courtroom steps where the attorneys came to us and said, do you want to know what we're going to be asking Mr. Phillips, which is so unconventional. And of course we said, yeah, what? And they said, we're going to admit that our operator was under the influence because we know you know that.
Whoa.
And so we're going to admit to that. But at the same time, we're going to ask Mr. Phillips one question, and that is, where on this machine did he caution not to be used while under the influence of drugs or alcohol?
Oh, my God. Wow.
And so with that, we were held accountable for 10% of the damage, and Universal had to suck up the other 90%. But the lesson there was, don't put something into commerce that isn't safe or well labeled, because you're dealing with people, lives, families, and that's a responsibility that we Matthews take seriously.
Wow. Man, that was a great story, and you brought it full circle. I love that.
Yeah. I love
what a great thing.
Back to the
do you have a so that's the C-stand. Do you have
I have a question regarding the C-stand. I was going to say, things are evolving all the time in this industry. We have different versions, different, capabilities. And it's a very simple question. Is the C-stand the best that it can be? Has it been perfected? Or do you think that there is a version yet to be created that can expand on its capabilities?
Maybe the B or the A stand?
The M stand.
I think it's an excellent question, and I think everything can be improved. And the C-stand, being, the foundation of so much, I think deserves another iteration. And we're looking at certain things. Just like, for example, we came out recently with what we call My Way. My Way is a mounting system that will require far less gear to be in transport, and it's far more versatile. Probably the world's first interchangeable grip system. You'll see it coming out in the next few months. Yeah, it's really very cool. Because, again, people have to travel lighter, faster, and less expensively. So that's part of the mantra of what we're trying to do.
Well, what about this? I'm going to give you an idea. Whether or not I get mailbox money is up to you. What about a carbon fiber-esque C-stand with a built-in gyroscope that can never be knocked over?
Oh my God!
So it's lightweight. It's lightweight, but it's active, and it responds to the weight that's put into it, and it's essentially a smart stand, smart C-stand.
Have another drink.
Good answer. This is going to cost $40 million to make.
I'm a dreamer.
I don't think the demand is there, Brandon.
And it can second as like camera stabilization.
Oh my God.
Well, there you go. It's a do-all. It does everything.
What I think Ed's saying is he's giving you his blessing to create that company and see if you can make it.
You don't worry. When I pull up in my Mercedes, we'll talk.
Yeah.
I'll share another little footnote of interest. At least what I think is interest. I was contacted, I don't know, a couple of weeks or a month ago, and they wanted to know, what did the digital revolution in filmmaking, how did that affect grip equipment? And I said, wow, that's an interesting question. It must have at some point, but in what way? And the following came to me when I said to them, CNC machinery. And they said, pardon me, what are you talking about? I said, well, if you go back to 1969 and you look at inflation, when we were building C-stands, we were selling them in 1969 for $150. Wow. If you take 1969 money and inflate it to what it would be today, that $150 would be close to but we sell a C-stand for $150.
It'd be close to how much?
How could we do that?
Say again, you cut out for 1 second.
Out. It would be, what would be the equivalent?
It would be the equivalent of $950, close to $1,000.
For a C-stand?
And still today, a C-stand will sell for as little as $150. So how do you do it? You do it through digital machinery and digital science, whereby one person can run more than one machine, and those machines run almost unattended, and they make perfect parts.
Yeah.
So cost of production comes down. Yep.
Yeah. Here's a question.
Exactly.
This is the last question on C-stands. How many knuckles are you guys responsible for busting?
On the advice of counsel, I can't answer that.
True. Oh, I think it's properly labeled in the documents how to use.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Unofficially,
that's amazing.
Millions of knuckles.
I got a question. Out of all the different types of products that you guys manufacture, do you have a specific favorite? Something that you hold near and dear to your heart?
Oh boy. So much has changed over the years, It's I think a couple of years ago we came out with what we call the Infinity Arm, which is an articulating arm to be used on a camera. Because more and more we're trying to build things that come around the camera, hold the camera. What was used years ago, is just cumbersome. It's heavy. It's bulky. Today it's got to be lighter weight. Again, streamlined. And so we did this Infinity Arm, which is an articulating arm. It's made here. It's a very robust arm. We spent a lot of time and love and energy and money in its development, and story of interest, we showed it in England at the BSC 2 years ago, and that show takes place in February. By the time, only 2 months later, we got to NAB in April in Las Vegas, there was an exact copy of it from a Chinese manufacturer.
Wow. Oh, wow. So
it took them only 2 months.
Oh, yeah. Somebody saw it, took it back, and they replicated it. That's crazy.
So the game, in that regard, the game has changed. And, are you guys? Can you protect from that, or is it? How has that changed a bit? Where are ideas even
intellectual property?
Yeah, like does that even exist anymore, or is it just China?
Oh yeah, but it's here's the problem. You can do a provisional patent, which we're beginning to do more and more of on new products, which guarantees us 1 year, where we have that year to show the product, get feedback, make modifications, and then we have to make a decision. Are we going to go full blown for a patent, which can cost $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, on a product that doesn't carry the kind of margin that would get you a return on that investment? And yet, if you don't, it's not like the old days where there was this sense of integrity. It doesn't exist. So, without the patent protection, you've done all this hard work, you put all this love and emotion into it, and somebody comes along and knocks it off. So that's the heartbreak of, the decision that has to do with how do you protect your intellectual property. It's not as easy as you write a script and you can register that script, with the Writers Guild, and you can and you're pretty much covered. It doesn't work like that. And then at that, after you pay all these fees to lawyers, and then you pay the government to run it through the USPTO, which is the United States Patent and Trademark Office, you really don't get anything back from the government except that you're registered. If somebody violates your registration, now you have to go hire more lawyers to go fight whomever it was who violated your property.
Yeah, it's up to you. Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're tough decisions that we make. As I age out, Tyler will be making them.
Yeah, that brings me to my next question. What's that like? What's it like running a business with your son? How did it start out? How has the delegation progressed up till what it is now?
I kind of put everything out there, and I don't do a lot of what would you say? Editorial on it. So I guess I'll tell you the whole story of when Tyler was in college, and I would go to visit him. He was up in Santa Barbara, and I wasn't real happy with what I saw. And he said, Dad, this school is rated like number 2 or 3 as a party school. And he said, I think I'd like to transfer. I said, hey, that's great, bud. Where do you want to go? He said, I think I want to go down to San Diego. They're rated number 1.
Yeah. I went to OU. I know what that's like. Yeah.
Yeah. So now he's down in San Diego, and he's working for Bank of America, and he's taking finance, and he's thinking about wanting to be an investment banker. And I went down to visit him, and again, I didn't get a good, solid feeling. And I said, "What's the matter, pal?" He said, "Well, you know, Dad, we spent a lot of money. I've spent a lot of time, and I don't want to be an investment banker." I said, "What do you want to be?" He said, "Well, that's the problem. I don't know." I said, "Well, that's what college is all about sometimes. You know, you find out what you like and what you don't." I said, "Have you ever thought about the industry that I serve?" He said, "No," and you know, I said, "It's got marketing, it's got the creative side, it's got the business side, it's got everything. It's a community within and of itself." He said, "Well, how would I get into that?" I said, "I'll transfer you to a film school, you know, like Northridge, and you're probably going to have to attend an extra year, but you can come out with a knowledge of all the different aspects of image capture and, you know, the industry." Which he did, and he fell in love with it, and he excelled, and he did really, really well.
Yeah.
And so while he was serving his senior year, he was doing an internship over at NBC. He called me one day, and he was all excited. He said, "I think they're going to offer me a full-time position upon graduation." I said, "Hey, that's great, son. Congratulations." I hung up the phone, and then I thought, well, now what the hell am I going to do? Because, you see, I never made that recommendation or suggestion while he was in school because I didn't want him to think if he screwed up, right, he could always go to work for the old man.
Yeah.
So I called him right back, and I said, "Let's have lunch." We did. I said, "Have you ever thought about working with me?" He said, What took you so long?" So upon graduation, he came over here. That was 7 years ago. He's been just a dynamo. There are some differences. I mean, we're blessed that we're able to do this together as father and son. We really, truly are. But, you know, there are some social differences, mostly having to do with, you know, age and perception and his youthful eyes versus my, you know, older eyes. And, you know, for example, you know, we may be having a meeting or a discussion or conversation, and he's face down in his smartphone, and I have to tap him and say, "Do you want to look me in the eye while we're talking, please?" You know? Yeah. Well, that's my old school versus the way, you know, people do business today.
Yeah.
I went to the Academy to view the preview of La La Land, which I thought was a phenomenal picture, especially the opening scene, but the flavor of the whole movie, produced and directed and written by two of the youngest guys I've ever seen in the industry.
Yeah, for sure.
Which just proves there's a ton of talent. It's getting the opportunity that's really, you know, the hardest part.
Well, that's such a great story you told there with your son. I think it's really inspiring and compelling, and says a lot beyond just the industry, but about relationships. And I think that's great. So, you know, I encourage you guys to keep that good relationship going. I've got a son myself who's 8, and I often wonder what in the hell he's going to do with his life. So I appreciated that anecdote, and but I also realized that I feel like my pitch was to the wrong person. I need to pitch my idea to your son, because you're you know what I mean. You're the old timer. You're the old timer. You don't even know what a gyroscope is.
Oh,
you know, all you know is like heavy metals and, you know, busted knuckles. But your son, however, he's the one who right now is developing the patent for what we'll call the Brandoni. The Brandoni stand, which was going to revolutionize filmmaking.
Oh my gosh!
Hey, I think you're absolutely right, as evidenced by the fact that when you were talking about gyroscopes, I thought you meant stethoscopes.
Oh my gosh! Brandon is revolutionary.
Tyler's your guy.
Ideas.
Tyler's my guy.
Talk to Tyler. He's your guy.
Yeah, we'll set that up.
So has Tyler been able to, you know, maybe a dumb question, has he brought a different energy, a different perspective? Has he kind of changed the way that things go around there, or is he still
cutting his teeth,
shadowing and cutting his teeth? Yeah.
No, I gave him a lot of rope, and he's only hung himself a couple of times, and that's part of the learning experience. But he's full of energy. He is passionate about what he does. He's brought a whole new landscape to the company in terms of it being more cutting edge. He's bringing us closer to the user population because, quite frankly, they're closer to his age than they are mine. There's a better ability to identify both in the way in which we market the products. We're changing that. And the way in which we try and engage and identify with people. His, social set is people, younger people who are filmmakers, and those who, do content and just about every facet of it. So where I wouldn't be able to maybe identify and understand the culture, he fits right in, and he's keeping Matthews cutting edge, so hopefully we can keep this legacy going.
That's great.
Good partnership, you two.
Yeah, and you guys do a lot of different things, right? I mean, you're not just this sort of establishment company. I mean, you guys have, it looks like you have like a garage sale. You guys are, innovating some new things you had mentioned earlier. What are you excited about right now? What do you guys either got in the hopper, or what are some things that enable you to get connected to the filmmaking community at new and different levels?
Well, you mentioned the garage sale, and that was Tyler's creation. It was his idea. He, said, we have gear that over the course of a year becomes not abused, but certainly used, which is demo equipment that we use at trade shows, whether we loan out to other manufacturers to support their stuff. And he said, I think that this party that we do every year after Cinegear would be a great opportunity to give, our friends and clients and customers an opportunity to get good equipment, that's only slightly used at a very attractive price. And so we did it 3 years ago strictly for the Matthews equipment, and it worked really well. It's grown over these years to the point where this past Cinegear, we had Anton Bauer, we had Cartoni, Cineo, Hive Lighting, K56, Light Panels, O'Connor, Vinton, Quasar Science, Sockler, and of course Power Gems and Matthews.
Wow!
So it may very well continue to grow as the years go by. But that was a Tyler, innovation,
and that's cool. The thing I appreciate about that is that really shows your all's commitment to giving back and connecting with the filmmaking community. A lot of times, as an owner of a small business, a small production company, you don't have infinite budget and infinite resource to build your kit, and so when companies and brands do things like you're talking about, what seems insignificant to some, to smaller people and one-man bands or whatnot, becomes a really big deal. To save a chunk of money and get a nice quality piece of gear is a really big deal. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I feel really good about it, and it's fun to see the enthusiasm on the part of those who are, making great deals and walking out of here with stuff they otherwise wouldn't have been able to afford. And they're very grateful, and we're grateful that they're here and that they can see our facilities and our factory and better engage with us and feel more comfortable in coming by more often.
That's awesome.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Do you, so your gear works on pretty much every movie, every show, everything that comes out. Is there anything specifically that you and your son or you and anybody else in the company likes to watch? Anything that gets you inspired? Any shows, movies you like?
Well, yes. I mean, how can you not have become maybe addicted if it got that far to Breaking Bad, a Netflix production.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
And from that, there was Narcos, and now House of Cards. The quality of those productions are it's amazing. The quality of everything, from the writing to the acting, the directing, the camera moves, the lighting. I mean, it's just phenomenal.
I'll tell you what, Ed, I hear a man after my own heart. I hear a fan of drama, a fan of good writing, a fan of good acting, a fan of quality cinema. Now, on the other chair in this room is Alex, who happens to...
you put me like that.
He happens to be a fan of my opinion,
entertainment.
A despicable genre. A genre that undermines the sturdy and hearty, steadfast qualities of C-Stands and Matthews.
Oh my God!
He subscribes to a genre known as the superhero genre.
I love superhero.
And here's the thing: this podcast, this is the 97th episode. Just about every episode, we enter back into this debate. This was the first debate. The first show we ever did was titled "Superheroes Suck," and it was my statement that drew a line in the sand and said, Alex, superhero movies are the worst thing that ever happened. And he pushed back and said, Brandon, we all got into this to be a part of great entertainment. Superhero movies are unbelievably entertaining. And this is an ongoing debate. And we have a legend like you on the phone. And now is the time for you to step up and make your statement. Are you in or are you out? Are you superhero movie or are you anti-superhero movie?
Oh my gosh! I'll tell you, if you would classify Avatar as a superhero movie, I would be in on that picture. As far as the others, I don't get it.
Don't get it.
Interesting.
But here's my question, Ed. Does "don't get it" classify as disgust, hate, canceling?
Okay, look.
So is there a chance that I can sway you, my friend?
And here's the thing:
to the light side.
All politics aside, we all know good business. You need superhero movies to sell C-stands. We get that, but we're talking about a personal, off-the-record preference on movies you will pop in and actually watch. Where do you stand?
Which would be your favorite? And I'll make a point to go see it.
There is no favorite. I mean, think of all the Marvel films.
Well, but you got Dark Knight. You've got Batman Begins.
Think of it all. Think of all of that, and then think of the wonderful shows you just mentioned: Narcos, Breaking Bad, beautiful dramas, great storytelling.
Well, it's not an if or and. It's not a this or that. It's a.
It is.
No. Because I also love House of Cards. I love Narcos.
It doesn't matter.
I'm saying.
All right,
superhero films. Would you watch them, or would you say I think that's a waste of resources?
We had a modifier. You just gave us a modifier with Avatar, which Avatar is a whole nother podcast episode we can get into.
Do not classify superhero,
and I don't think it's a superhero. So you've got to make a decision.
I got to pull up Marvel. I haven't looked at any of them because
Iron Man, Avengers,
Thor.
Thor.
Iron Man, I did see, and I really enjoyed it.
Yes! That doesn't count as a win. Okay. He's talking about one film.
Check mark.
No.
Check.
Stop.
Alex wins.
Look, no. This debate, we will get a debate. Ed Phillips, we need an answer. Superhero movies, yes or no?
Man. Could I get away with saying they have their place?
No.
Yes.
No.
That's a yes.
No. If that's the case,
then I win.
Then it's a yes. Unbelievable. Wow.
You're a true businessman. You're a true politician, Ed. I respect your ability to...
Unbelievable. 97 episodes to have a legend of the filmmaking community agree with you.
I consider that
of all people.
An addition to the light side.
You know what? I agree. People like you do have their place.
Oh, my place.
Yeah, you have a place. It's a much lower place. A place of lower integrity.
But lower. I'm out of the elements and protected. Oh, my gosh. Ed, are you drinking anything? Do you partake?
I did last night, guys.
Are you a bourbon guy?
Are you a bourbon guy?
Tequila, whiskey, vodka? What are you doing?
I like Absolute vodka.
Oh, classic.
Clean.
The clean jammer.
Okay. Well, if we're out there soon, we'll have to bring you a bottle of the dirty stuff.
Yeah, we'll get you some bourbon.
Yeah, we'll get you some bourbon out there.
Give me some bourbon. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And
an IV, will you?
So the other thing is we
have actually, since we're doing a podcast marathon today, we technically have recorded 2 episodes that our listeners will hear in the future. One of which was with a guy named Luke Seerveld, who runs a YouTube show called Meet the Gaffer. It's an educational resource. He talks about lighting and all sorts of stuff for kind of up-and-comers and people in the industry. And he had a message, he'd like passed along to you. He said, "I'd like to tell Ed, I really like the spring-loaded junior stands, and the beefy, quote, rail dolly stands are real crowd pleaser." And he included a smiley face.
Oh.
So we just wanted to pass that along, that these guys that are also putting out educational content have really great things to say about your gear.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Thank you.
The other thing to piggyback on is one thing that you guys do that is super cool to the community. Shows like ours, shows like his and other podcasts and shows that are out there, you guys are always super supportive. Not only do you come on and share your knowledge, but you also do really kind stuff like give stuff away. And you guys have I don't know if you know this or not, somebody from your organization said that we could give away 2 Matthews C-stands. We talked a lot about C-stands today. They're the bread and butter of any set, and we're able to give away 2 of those on this show, and we got to say thank you so much. That is really tremendous, and our audience is going to really appreciate that.
Well, it's our pleasure. In production, as you guys both well know, you can get away with 1 camera, but it's hard to get away unless there's a mood or an ambiance one's trying to create with a single light or a single stand. You have to have at least 2 or 3 of them. So hopefully, whichever of your viewers lucky enough to get these 2, they'll enjoy them.
Well, that's great.
We think so. We think with the resources that Luke and we like to think, and a couple other YouTubers and podcasters provide, that they'll be able to use those stands, in the way that they're intentioned. So,
well, Ed, great, thank you.
Ed, I'll tell you what, you have been a joy, man. We've really enjoyed this episode, and we would love to have you back on. Maybe we could do a duo with Tyler. And I just, maybe in the future we could get you guys back on. But this has been a lot of fun. Your stories are legendary.
Yes.
Well, thank you both very much. I've had a good time. Thank you for having me on. I would love the opportunity of doing it again with Tyler.
Yeah.
It would be even a more classic presentation. But I wish you all continued success. Cheers to everybody, and thank you so much again for having me on.
Thanks
cheers,
so much.
Ed. Thank
Appreciate
you,
it, Ed. Have a
Take
good
care,
one.
guys.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
What an
Wow.
amazing...
What a day.
Oh, just a legend.
What a day. Dude, his stories were amazing.
Yeah.
The Burt Reynolds story?
God, he's fantastic.
And he's a great storyteller.
He is. I could listen to him for hours.
Oh, my gosh.
I know.
And I think that's the coolest thing about the filmmaking community is it has such a rich history.
It's rooted in storytelling.
Right. I love how the seasoned guys, the veterans, the old timers, they love to share that knowledge and they love to pass that on. That's so cool. I can't wait I want to be old like that.
Well,
I want to be old. I
It's
want to
not
tell
just
stories.
old, it's integrity. The fact that he...
I don't mean old in a negative way. I mean experienced.
I'm just saying, to touch on something that he brought up, like the fact that they'll partner with somebody for an idea and then make sure they sign a deal to give royalties. Like that, it's not something that every businessman does.
Yeah.
But they recognize that they're part of a community. Things get around, and everybody's got to be there for each other.
Sure.
So, just a good dude.
That's how the Brandoni's going to get made.
The Brandoni. The smart stand?
Be honest. Tell me. That's a pretty good idea. The stand that never falls over?
I think my silence speaks volumes.
So, here's the thing. We mentioned the giveaway. You heard from the source itself. You heard from the C-stand.
It's going down.
Dude, the history on the C-stand was awesome.
Right.
How cool is that?
Unbelievable.
Really fun.
I didn't know Century Lighting. Okay.
Yeah, really cool. So Matthews has given away 2 C-stands. We're talking 350-ish value. This is quality.
The best
gear.
They're top of the line in the industry.
All you need to do is get on the social medias and connect with @FDB Podcast, connect with @Matthews Grip.
Yep.
Use the hashtag FDB giveaway and share the episode 97.
Totally.
That'll enter you to win. if you share other episodes, I think like
it's got to be
5 or 6.
No, the previous episode or next episode. So once you'll hear this first, later on, episodes 98, 99, you can share those for multiple entries up until the conclusion of the giveaway. So starting now.
That sounded complicated, whatever you just said.
97's the first one. Share it, use the hashtags,
yes.
Tag us.
But if you want to share 96 or episode 13, feel free.
Yeah, we won't hate you for it. Anyway.
This has been a lot of fun. Wow.
Dude,
episode 97.
We have some recent 5-star reviews.
We
have people that actually like what we're trying to do.
Not only that, but people are helping us out. We have asked to try to reach 100 reviews by the 100th episode.
Yeah.
And I think at this point we're getting close to less than 10.
We're like 90-something.
It's happening.
We're close there. Yeah.
And so some of our recent ones, we've got old Robbie Hunn.
Yeah, what do you say?
He says, love this podcast. It's great information for those working in the industry. And more importantly, it's presented in a fun, easy to digest way. Love the casual nature of the format. Super entertaining, but also you learn a ton in each episode. Definitely recommend.
You know what I recommend?
What's that?
I recommend the note that we just got through the glass of our window here, our little cage that they put us in to record it.
Yeah.
From our producer, Frank.
Just
Guess
happens.
what?
What's that?
We're a 5-star podcast.
Unbelievable.
Officially a 5-star podcast.
Which, interesting fact, when you listen to episode 98 and 99...
we won't be a 5-star
So
podcast
here's what's happening. Dude, here's what's happening. There is a Back to Future moment that's happening. You guys right now...
You're in a time warp.
...are listening to the future. And you're finding out something that has happened. We are now a 5-star podcast. What's going to happen when you, in your present moment, listen to episode 98 or 99,
yeah,
you will be in the present, but you will be
listening to the past.
And we will no longer be a 5-star podcast.
So currently, think about that.
It's like it's like Primer. Yeah, this is listening to this show is like Primer.
There's too many threads.
So,
either way,
yeah,
we didn't mention the other one, so we're safe. But we're 5.
Wow!
Dude,
cheers!
High 5.
5 stars.
Cheers to that.
Wow! Now there's time between now and then to lose this 5 stars. So potentially, episode 98, 99 are totally true because we've lost a star.
And that's the magic of what we just did today by recording 3 episodes.
Yeah. So
in reverse order.
Now there was another review,
yeah.
here. Who's that by?
By Tar1 Dude.
Tar1 Dude.
What's up, dude? I shoot automotive YouTube videos. Not exactly the films these guys cover, but I'm learning so much about the creativity, business, and the film industry. These guys are awesome, and you don't need to be in the film industry to gain from this podcast. Why, thanks, dude.
Thanks, Tar Dude.
Thanks, dude.
That's
we
fun.
agree. We think we provide a few little nuggets of simply life advice that people can take.
Philosophy. This
philosophy.
Sure.
Our stoic,
this is great.
Our stoic nature.
Wow, 5-star podcast. Do you think?
Can you
imagine? Frank, can you verify? Does Bob Vila?
Oh.
Does Bob Vila have a 5-star podcast? Because when we launched this podcast, we were on the homepage of iTunes with Bob Vila. And at this point in time, I would like to know, I don't know if you can look this up.
I'm sure we can.
We can't look this up? Are you looking this up?
I'm trying to.
I want to know how many shows has Bob Vila done? How many ratings does Bob Vila have? This is a head-to-head battle. We started on the same day.
We were featured.
We were featured on the same week. And are we doing better or worse than Bob Vila? That's really the question.
Huh.
Listeners, you can look this up. You can figure this out. And we'd love to hear back from you. That's really what I'm getting at.
What was his podcast called?
I have no clue. This Old House or something like that. But if you think that we are a better podcast than Bob Vila, we'd love to hear from you. Leave a 5-star rating if you'd like. Talk about it. Or if you hate us and you really prefer Bob Vila, we'd love to hear that as well.
Well,
it might ruin our 5-star rating.
And if you do hate us, we'd prefer that you come on the show.
Yeah.
Talk to us face to face.
Yes.
So we can be constructive.
If you are Bob Vila,
you are more than welcome on the show. Yeah.
Or if you know Bob Vila,
you've got a bottle of Oyo with your name on it.
We would love. We have an open invite from now until the show ends ever,
Yeah.
Bob Vila always has a place on the show. Absolutely. Him and James Franco.
That would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing.
What a show that would be.
I found it. At Home with Bob Vila.
Yeah. What's he got?
Details.
What kind of ratings he got?
There's one review.
He's got nothing?
Yeah.
Bob's got one review.
Podcasts are not downloading from iTunes.
We've got almost 100 reviews.
Yes.
5 stars.
We're getting up there.
Bob, you are in need of some remodeling on your podcast.
Slacking, buddy.
Oh, man.
Anyway,
I am
been a trip,
absolutely
dude.
exhausted.
It's been a trip.
We've done 3 podcasts today. This is the dumbest idea ever. Frank, you're crazy.
But also the most brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Bart hates us at this point.
Yeah.
Bart the engineer is just like, this is the worst day I've ever had. I've had to listen to these guys banter for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And this is ridiculous. But it's been a lot of fun.
Yes. It's all about the listener, though. It's not.
About
this isn't for us.
Yeah.
We did this for 2 reasons. 1, because people were available at the times on this day, and 2, so that we could actually prep our 100th episode spectacular.
There is so much pressure on Frank right now.
This 100th episode, it's the best, the biggest event that Cincinnati's ever put on. It'll be the greatest thing ever.
Basically, it is the most important piece of media in the filmmaking industry that's ever occurred.
It's going to be really, really great. Very, very greatly, bigly, huge, and amazing. Yeah.
I believe President Trump's going to be there.
Oh, it's going to be great. Yeah.
It's going to be amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Somehow, Frank's going to pull this off.
Anyway. Oh, we do. Okay, so this is 97. It's going to be the first one you hear out of 3. After 99, just know there's a big 100th episode spectacular, and beyond that, there's actually some really great stuff we've got in the works. Frank and I were talking. You and I were
Thanks
talking.
for including me. Me and Frank were talking. Actually, we've
replaced Brandon. Bart's now the host.
We've replaced. I have thought about retiring.
No, you're not.
I got to be honest. This show was built on transparency.
This show was built on you and me.
But I'm just telling you, this show's built on transparency. I've actually considered
as friends.
I've considered retiring.
Well,
because I feel, you know what I mean. I
can't carry on without you.
Really?
That's what the tissues are for.
I feel like this show is bigger than us. We have a Slack community. We've got other filmmakers involved. I feel like the show carries on. I would like to hear from the listeners. So I'd like to put this out there to the listeners.
Brandon retires. I would retire as well.
You're putting
the pressure on me.
Would you guys still listen to the show if me and Alex weren't on it, or if I retired and someone else came on the show? Would you guys still listen to the show? I'm interested. I mean, I like doing the show, but there's a lot that goes into this. It's been a lot easier with Frank the producer, but I mean, this is a serious commitment. And
guys, I'm kind of scared right now.
Do we have?
I need to rally you to the superhero side and say, no, we won't listen.
We're at 100 episodes. I mean, where does this ever stop? Do we go to 200? Is it 1,000 episodes?
Brandon, does filmmaking ever stop?
Does
bourbon ever stop? No. The beat goes on.
The beat goes on. Well, anyway, but I had to put that out there.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious.
That's fine. I'll put it right back. Box that up, bury it deep inside.
Put a pin in it.
And just stop.
All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for your support and helping us become a 5-star podcast. We have reached a pinnacle in our journey.
Yeah. Maybe a low point in podcast,
but
a pinnacle in our specific journey.
And if at this point you are still with us,
yeah,
I would encourage you to go back and listen to episode 1, Superheroes Suck. And
it's rough.
Appreciate that journey with us and how far we've come.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Well,
shedding a tear. I need a tissue.
Brandon, cheers to you.
Cheers to you, man. It's been great.
Cheers to our podcast.
Yeah.
Cheers to our fans.
This podcast was recorded live at Sound Images Studio. Find out more at soundimages.com.